All right, so how distributed cognition and collective intelligence might work within a class. So think of all the kids in your classes and think about how they all have different types of expertise in relation to computer science. So some kids that I knew were really good at creating player controls, other kids I knew were really good at creating physics, while some were really good at conditionals, etc. What I would do in my classes is whenever a kid would have a problem and they'd ask their friends for help and a couple of their friends couldn't help, they would typically come to me and say, hey, I'm having trouble with X. What I would typically respond with is, oh, Susie is awesome at helping people with X. How about you go ask Susie and they'll be able to help you? So this is a form of distributed cognition where you're distributing forms of expertise across groups of people. So it doesn't have to just be with tools. Now, how this relates to collective intelligence is the class as a whole was able to work together to kind of solve some kind of problem, whether it be a project that they are working on in groups or just computer science as a whole. Now, what would be really neat and ideal is engaging in distributed cognition and collective intelligence outside of just the class that you're working with. So connecting kids with others within the school, outside of the district, etc. Now, the authors point out that this approach is very different than what typically goes on in schools. So here's a quote from page 42. Quote, schools, on the other hand, often seek to develop generalists rather than allowing students to assume different roles based on their emerging expertise. The idea of the Renaissance man was someone who knew everything or at least knew a great deal about a range of different topics. The idea of a collective intelligence is a community that knows everything and individuals who know how to tap the community to acquire knowledge on a just-in-time basis. Minimally, schools should be teaching students to thrive in both worlds, having a broad background on a range of topics, but also knowing when they should turn to a larger community for relevant expertise. End quote. That is such an important quote, and it really resonates with my own approach to all the classes that I worked with, whether it was K-12 or higher education. Highly recommend finding a way to apply these different core media literacy skills in the class. And again, read the actual paper to get even more ideas. This podcast is a very short, relatively short summary of what you'll find in the paper itself.
This excerpt of the CSK8 podcast is from episode number 60, which is titled Confronting the Challenges of Participatory Culture.